It's interesting. They were bold in their statements.
Yeah, and he was like, such a tiny speaker. He knew.
Yeah, he's a really good speaker. Yes. You're director from Walmart retail, and he at least started this campaign. He says they're gonna be the biggest retailer in the world because they actually don't have to stock anything. It's like a peer-to-peer stuff thing.
Like eBay. You're on dollar.
Yeah, you don't buy and sell, you give and receive. So actually when you put something to sell, to give, let's say you sell and I don't want it anymore, you earn their dollars, like their currency, and you can take anything you want. You can exchange for stuff you want. So pretty much exchange in this in the exchange they earn money, like a couple of dollars per item that is changing hands, and that's it. So they say their stuff doesn't change, doesn't reduce in quality. It's always growing because things can be in use, I'm using it, or can be available. So as people put more stuff, it only grows, it doesn't diminishes. Because maybe I'm using this and I'm retiring, I'm gonna put it back as available. So it's pretty much like a give and receive stuff. And they have this challenge, 1 month challenge. They challenge you not to buy anything for that month, and just to use their platform to exchange things. For instance, you have a coffee machine you don't want anymore, but I need clothing, so I exchange. And there's this girl that's doing that for a year. Like, she will buy nothing for a year. That's using only their platform to exchange. It's interesting.
I'm gonna get moving here. Maybe we're gonna let people trickle in over the next 4 minutes, but I'm just gonna kind of like go through the whole background stuff that's not completely important to everybody. So thanks for coming out today. I don't think I've met most of you before, so thanks for coming to support. I'm James Norman. I've been working in the media space for about 8 years. I've done multiple startups in the space. My last startup was UB Video. It was the first aggregator of internet TV online back in like 2009. We sold that to a small cable company, and that enabled us to kind of move on and do other, tech things in TV. I'm from Detroit. Detroit is like Oakland in the Midwest, or vice versa. So I really like this city. This is where I've chosen to base my company and all my efforts in the Bay Area. The community's been really supportive. As you can see, I'm in my lawyer's office having all you people here. So everybody's like really cool. And other than that, we're a team of 5 people now. We've been working in the pilot TV space for probably about a year now. Our knowledge of the space was fairly limited a year ago, but our knowledge of Hollywood in general is pretty vast. So we spent a lot of time with mentors in the space, understanding exactly how they test shows and how we can help them improve their processes, and begin to use more big data analysis to better understand the consumer activity and feedback, whether it be through distribution or through a focus test through focus group. Fun fact, I built cars for Fast and Furious. So I used to be in automotive product planning and design, and I just realized that having lots of cars is cool, but it doesn't make you a lot of money. So now I work at TV. So that's about that. I think we'll have a few people trickling in over the next few minutes, but we'll just kind of get started. So again, James, CEO of Pilotly. We are a platform that enables people to test their content against audiences at scale. Specific segmentations, gain qualitative and quantitative insights, and that all comes up to a real-time dashboard that helps our clients make better business decisions. But beyond that, I'm here to talk to you about TV. So, first question for you guys is, how many people in here actually have cable? All right. Okay, we got a few people. How many people in here think they'll have cable 1 year from now? So we still got a few people. So, my first question is really how many people have had cable in the past? And everybody's like, yeah, and then like they don't have it anymore. So, cable obviously is a thing that's kind of shifting out of play, whether that be because of how people respond to it customer satisfaction wise, or what the offering is, or how much money they have to spend on that type of service. we're seeing, you know, a shift in that world. But before we dive into why that might be, the first thing is to understand where cable came from. So when cable came out in the 50s, it was super cool. It was like, there's people in rural regions who can't gain access to broadcast content. Let's give them access. So they were really like helping people join around information and be a part of what's going on in the rest of the world. It was an important thing for people to have cable. And as the years went on, they continued to build this opportunity. As you reached the 60s, you had almost 1 million people on cable who were in these rural regions actually enjoying entertainment. And then as things got to the 70s, they realized, okay, we're getting really big here. We have a large enough audience that we can begin to monetize other services through this pipeline. So that's when HBO came out. It was the first premium network to be available to users. And they saw a big pickup on that. So by the time the 80s came around, droves of people, not only just in rural areas, but in urban areas, were beginning to use cable because it was higher quality content, more consistent, could be used in every room in the home. So cable was this great thing in the 80s. People were paying like $15 a month for this. Like, it was the best deal ever. I got all these channels, it's high quality, it's 15 bucks, can't lose. This is when like MTV, Nickelodeon, other cool networks started coming up because the people who own the pipelines were like, we should make more original networks. People want this stuff. So, as they were ramping up more and more networks, by the time you get to the 90s, you had a solid set of channels. You had that 50 to 70 channels that everybody had, where we'd call people back in the day and be like, are you watching Channel 4? Channel 4 was the same for everybody. And what happened was when you got to 92, this growth was happening so rapidly, and the distribution pipes were having such control over things. For better or for worse, they came in Congress and signed the Cable Act in 92. The Cable Act in 92 shifted everything because they were taking broadcast air content and delivering it through the cable pipeline, but they weren't paying the broadcasters for that privilege. They were simply doing it and making money. So they began to allow these broadcasters to charge them a carriage fee for the over-the-air content going through the pipeline. This changed everything because cable companies were like, you're messing up our margins. Like, what are you doing? They're getting all flustered and they're pushing back against the broadcasters and paying these fees, and broadcasters are like, we make the content. We're gold. So like, they've been disrespected for a number of years to a certain degree, and they're like, that's not going to happen anymore. So they started buying up all the networks. And there started to be this consolidation in who owns the networks, to the point where now today you only have about 7 studios owning almost all the networks. So what happened in that process was, as they did that, they started to come to negotiations and say, if you want NBC, or if you don't, say you don't want NBC, all right, you want to pay your carriage fees. No problem. You won't get Bravo, you won't get E, you won't get USA, you won't get the other 10 channels that we offer. So now the content publishers hold this kind of gold card where they can say, you got to pay for all of our channels or you get none of them. And this is the point at which cable starts to ramp up their prices and everything starts to get crazy. Because over the next decade, we come into going from 70 channels to 1,000 channels. Channels are just being thrown in there because they have to be paid for, because if you don't pay for these extra 100 channels I got, you're not getting the core 10 channels you need. And the entire business model is based on just lump sum licensing fees as opposed to viewer consumption, which leaves us in a position where the distributor is getting pounded saying you got to keep paying us, and so they're going to keep charging us. And this is when we're like, cable gets to $30, $40, $50. And there was so much content that you had to add into the DVR. They wanted to have control over what we were going to watch because they were like, hey, there's so much content out there to keep these people engaged. They need a way to record it. In that process, what they didn't understand was they were creating a consumption habit that would shift their whole business model for forever. As soon as we got the power to choose what we want to watch, and our nights were no longer based on what came on at 8 o'clock, our entire mentality, the way we ran our lives as entertainment viewers, changed. We knew that we didn't have to be there at prime time. We could watch when we wanted, and we didn't have to even watch one episode and wait the next week. We could begin to lump things together when we had time. So while it seemed good that people were consuming and paying for the DVR, it was like, this was going to have a major shift over time. And so now where you're at today is, internet has come in and only exacerbated our power over our entertainment and the way we do things in life. And so we no longer want to be held to that standard of just showing up when they say show up. And so what has happened is internet viewing has skyrocketed and began to really redefine the way we consume television. So that's kind of the background of how we got here today. So companies like Netflix, they came in and basically created the standard for what you believe to be the best way to be entertained online. Netflix was the first person to have everybody viewing online, to have an app on every device, to make it accessible to you for a minimal price of what used to be the same price as cable for thousands of TV shows that you can watch at any time. And so the thing about this is it made things so accessible that we can watch anywhere, anytime we want. And it's really setting the expectations for an important generation of people. Because, of course, right now, baby boomers still pay their cable bills. Gen X is shifting into a position where they have kids in high school and things of that nature, and they're still like, the kids are watching what the parents pay for. But all in all, these people are being highly influenced by watching TV online. And that's going to have a major effect on the business over the next 10 years during the period where they think cable, people will keep saying cable will roll on, but it doesn't make sense as these people watch over 60% of their content online. So these expectations being set of user experience, being able to get recommendations on your content, being able to socially share your content and get feedback from your friends about what you want to watch next. All that's very important for what's going to happen. And it's really showing a fast adoption of streaming internet, streaming internet services. So 57% of people in the US today have access to either Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, or similar service, or some combination thereof. And this will only rise over the next few years to the point where it will probably plateau around 75 to 80%, but over then another 10 years, it will be commonplace for people to be using over-the-top services. So I forgot one thing. I got to define three things for you. OTT means over the top. Over the top is streaming video, essentially. So we had over the air, then you had what you call under the ground cable, and now you have over the top, which is internet, TV. You also see the term MCN in this presentation. That's a multi-channel network. MCNs are Machinima, Maker, Studios, Full Screen. These are people who are YouTube networks with thousands of channels aggregated and to the point where they're almost like a studio online. And MSO, you might see that term. So multi-service operator, or MVPD. These are cable companies and satellite companies. So just so you understand the terms as I go through this. And so you're seeing all this growth.
Just a quick question on that graph there. Do you think that there may be something wrong with the survey that Deloitte did? Because Amazon, I mean, you could imagine somebody, especially a boomer, saying, oh yeah, I use Amazon, but for streaming video.
Oh yeah, no, this is siphoned to be specific to streaming video.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm saying, like, it seems odd that more boomers would use Amazon for streaming video than Netflix.
What do you mean?
Am I misreading that there?
Are you looking at this chart here?
No, the
this chart.
Yeah.
This chart is talking about people who consume, people who consume content online. So people who, that's exactly right. People who watch Amazon versus Netflix. I'll give you a few background points about that.
Okay.
I can't tell you exactly why they had that finding, but I can give you some of my own ideas. Amazon has had a tremendous success in selling connected devices. Connected devices that are lower cost, they hit the middle America. Middle America consumes more content than people in urban areas. And there's a direct correlation between the amount of connected devices in your home and how much video you stream. So a lot of baby boomers own Kindles. Like my mom owns a Kindle. That's how she does her internet. She's like, I don't need a new laptop, I got my Kindle. That's a common thing amongst people who are 50 years and older, and they can easily access their Amazon Prime through that device and stream it to their television. Not to mention they've had great success with the Amazon Fire Stick. They beat penetration of Apple TV at this point, and they're ramping up towards Chromecast. They might actually reach it since they're probably going to remove Chromecast from their actual marketplace. I'm not sure how that's going to go. I think that's a bad thing for them culturally. But that would be why you would see this, because older people just kind of go where they tend to be having accessibility to watch. I don't know why my mouse isn't working here, but so what this is all adding up to in terms of people consuming online is you're starting to see a drop in the amount of cable households. While back in 2009, 2010, when I was telling people are going to cancel cable and there's going to be a major shift, they were seeing these upticks here and there in terms of growth, 1.5 to 2%. But you have to imagine a certain portion of this was more households coming in the market. Every year there's more TV households, and of course you're going to get some percentage of those into cable. But as streaming has really ramped up over the past 3 years, you've only seen a quite linear decline in the amount of households in the US that have cable, and this will only continue over time, probably at a linear pace for quite some time. So the question next is, what is cable going to do about this? Because these are multi-billion-dollar industries, and we can't just say cable's just going to go away. So I want to talk about how they're trying to kind of, ride the wave and understand what they can do with digital impact. If you talk to a lot of analysts, they would really say cable companies are best served focusing on broadband. Today they try and package a lot of different things together to try and make you feel like it's a good value proposition, but many consumers are too smart for that, and that's what's leading people to go away from the service. They don't need voice because everybody has a cell phone. They might not want TV because it's channels they don't need. What they really want is broadband. Broadband's like water. No matter how much they charge us, we're going to pay for it. So that's really where their best opportunity is. And if you look at where they get their revenues from, TV's been quite flat and is even dropping a little bit because the margins keep getting crushed by these people pushing licensing fees upon them. But broadband only gets better over time, and the margins in broadband are ridiculous. You can see margins in broadband up to 97%. They've owned infrastructure for a decade. They can deliver broadband to you reliably for $6 and sell it to you for $50. There's no better business than that. The only thing is it's not sexy and it doesn't feel like cable. So they don't want to be what they call a dumb pipe, but for me, I call it smart business. And so I think we'll talk about that a little bit later. But so broadband's like the key thing where they could be making money, but they still want to focus on entertainment. So they're making moves as if they're still entertainment companies. So the biggest thing you're seeing now is these consolidations of MSOs. So if you remember, I told you before, you saw a large consolidation of networks and whatnot. That was for them to get power. Now cable companies are like, screw that. We'll consolidate with our competitors. We'll have lower infrastructure costs, and now we'll have the power. Because if you do not give us the channel, it ain't going nowhere because we own half of this region. So they're trying to do these big mergers. FCC, of course, denied this one. Comcast can't have anything else. They already own the VC. They have so many different properties. So Charter right now is in the process of acquiring Time Warner, and they already acquired Bright House. So they're moving into a position, you probably never even heard of Charter, but they're going to be a number 4 cable company. Then you have AT&T DirecTV. They're kind of going on in the background doing their thing. Like that's happening. That's happening rapidly. And this is an interesting thing because AT&T owns one of the only what they call IPTV pipelines. So they don't necessarily deliver their cable in the same way. It's actually delivered through an internet pipeline. They can do very interesting things with their experience and collect a lot more data than general cable companies. But they're in a position to do something interesting. And then you also have international companies getting in the mix. So these guys who are like not local are kind of coming in with lots of money and buying up cable companies. So Altice is like, I want to say like a Danish company or something like that. I think they're out of Amsterdam. And they've been buying up companies as much as they can. They tried to get Time Warner, I believe. But their purpose is trying to have international infrastructure to monitor and have data, and also to have global licensing opportunities. So if you can say, I own 30 million households in the US, 20 in Canada, and 20 million in Europe, you're in a good position to have some pretty powerful negotiations when it comes to acquiring content. And US content is always some of the most valuable in the world. So there's a lot of this going on to gain leverage over the people creating the content. But
how does Verizon play with that? Because Verizon owns some.
Oh yeah, Verizon's still in this. So Verizon's Fios. We'll talk about them in just a second. And Verizon's not doing any consolidation right now. Their sub base isn't that large, but they might be in a position. I don't think they'll ever be in a position to be acquired because they're too attached to the cellular division. But they could be in a position if they wanted to pull off something like AT&T is doing with a Dish TV or something like that. But with all this said, they're doing this because they realize they have to have more control of their content pipeline because they can't build bundles that you want without having power over your licensing. So, they kind of are having our thoughts in mind while still trying to make money. But, if I can click, they want to have this new commitment to consumers where they're going to not just evaluate who they're licensing content to, because if you think about it, like ESPN, for instance, it takes $7 for a cable subscription. Only about 35% of the US watches ESPN, but everybody's paying for it. You subsidize everybody watching ESPN, every hour of the day. They're starting to flip this on its head and understand which channels they really need the most licensing for, so they can build these little small bundles that are cheaper for you and will, reduce attrition. Verizon's really in the news for this right now. Verizon has a really small, skinny cable package they're doing for like $40, and it doesn't include ESPN. And ESPN feels like that violates the negotiation they made, so they're trying to sue them because they're not selling their stuff to people who don't want it. That's the kind of crazy stuff that's going on out there today. Charter's doing the same thing. They got a $40 thing. Cablevision's doing the same thing. Cablevision actually has an offering where you can get Hulu Plus and like HBO Go and like a couple other small things and some broadcast channels for like $40. So people are trying to do this, but the smaller guys are more nimble because they can afford to be like, we're not taking your channel because their markets are so small, they can be more flexible. These guys can't afford to be, the big guys can't afford to be in positions where they're doing negotiations and they get market blackouts. Like in LA, they had a huge blackout where like CBS was gone, or AMC is gone from DirecTV. Like they can't afford these things because it loses them the subscribers that they cannot get back. But with all these efforts in place, we of course are still skeptical. So cord cutting is continuing to rise over the past few years, and by the end of this year, about 16% of households will have cut the cord. And we're seeing a similar rise in connected devices in the home, where 21% of homes today have Roku, Chromecast, Amazon, Apple TV, ways to watch content the way people would like to. And overall, one thing that is not to be forgotten is cable companies are the most hated out of all companies. Forget Delta, forget Bank of America, they have the lowest American satisfaction score out there. So while they're battling on the technology front trying to get you content they want, they're still not delivering the experience that some people are even willing to deal with, so you still won't get people back regardless of pricing. With that said, they're still rethinking entertainment. The satellite companies seem to be most aggressive at this, and so is Verizon. And Sling TV came out earlier this year, and Sling TV's $20 a month, has about 20 live channels, including ESPN, which is huge, and it has AMC and then some kids channels. The user experience, has a little bit they got advanced it a little bit, but they are giving it a valiant try there. And this is the interesting part over here. So some of these cable companies are really rethinking it, looking at millennials and how they consume content and what kind of content they consume. They of course watch long form, but they watch a lot of short form in between. So Fios just released an app a couple weeks ago called Go90. It's basically a little app that allows you to see like all the MCN content. All kinds of stuff you see shared online in different categories, all within this kind of fun little app that would for them, target millennials. I've used the app. The user experience is terrible. It doesn't share outside of its own ecosystem. It's obviously not built well with a lot of care around people actually engaging with the client that they're actually trying to serve. But the thought's in the right place, and they have some currency that they can use to get people to kind of get up on it. Because when I signed up to it, because I signed up early, I got an extra 2 gigs of data on my Verizon plan that month. And if I shared it with someone, I might get some extra gigs on my plan. So they have this currency to kind of get you to share and grow their audience. But at the same time, Comcast has launched Watchable, which is the same concept, but the user experience is beautiful. And it gets you to use it, and it gets you to watch videos through this Comcast app on your spare time. The only disadvantage of both of these, from a consumer standpoint, is these kids who watch short-form content, they tend to watch on YouTube, for the most part, or through Facebook. A third of all YouTube views are through Facebook today. But what happens is, on Facebook, you usually don't get ads. And on YouTube, if you get an ad 9 times out of 10, you can skip it after 6 seconds. With these guys have heavy relationships with advertisers over the years, so they can sell out all the advertising space on all this content. So you have to watch a 10 to 15 second ad before you watch anything almost every time. So I imagine that no matter how beautiful it is, once people continuously run in the ads, I had a couple people test it. I had my fiance test it, a couple of her friends test it, and they were like, this looks great. And they were like, I want to watch this. Ad, no. Ad, no. And after 6 ads, they were like, oh, this is cool, but I don't want to watch these 15-second ads for 30-second videos. So they're rethinking it, but it's going to be very hard for them to overcome their traditional ways of making revenue and getting more creative on the way they can actually monetize what they're delivering. So while all this is going on to try and save cable, internet is of course still pushing forward. All right, so today people can build their own bundles. Netflix has over 45 million subs in the US today. They're going to be over 50 million by the end of the year. When you start hitting that 50, 60 million round, you're talking about half of all TV viewing households having Netflix. And people who have Netflix, 57% of them prefer it over television. So if they had to choose which subscription they were going to keep, they're going to keep Netflix. And over the past 2 years, lots of services have proliferated to the point where I personally can get everything I need from in independent OTT services without cable. I'm able to get Showtime. I watch Ray Donovan. I can watch Narcos. I can watch The Daily Show. I can watch, you know, transparent. I can see everything I need to see for half of what the price is for cable, and I can do it on my own terms on any device I want. This is a unique thing that's only going to continue to grow. And what we're seeing is networks are wanting to get on the one-to-one basis. So I'm going to give you here as an example of HBO. Traditionally, HBO would deliver to cable companies, and they would allow you to watch in your home in your living room. Then cable is taking care of the customer service. So when the show goes blank or something goes wrong, you call cable. Cable's like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna help you, blah, blah, blah. And then when you're like, this is too expensive, I'm gonna leave. Cable handles customer retention. They're like, I'm gonna give you a promo. I'll give you HBO free for 6 months so you forget about it, and I'll keep charging you, and everything will keep turning. And then they're like, we're gonna offer, we see all this stuff coming online, we need to have HBO Go. So HBO went in the lab with a contract team and built HBO Go. So now I can watch my HBO out of home or in home. And I still have these key components here. But the thing is, HBO is tacked on top of the expensive cable service that we're already paying for, that we don't want, that we're reducing. So not only, I showed you 60% cable cutters, but I didn't show you even the percentage of people reducing their cable package, which is even greater than 16%. So as the people in cable and the people with large cable packages reduce, you begin to lose HBO subscribers. And you have this super high demand. I mean, you had a website like 3 years ago where had like 130,000 people sign up and said they pay $20 a month for HBO. Give it to us now. Like they literally had givememyhbonow.com or whatever it was called. And so after seeing all the demand and having the platform in place, they decided to take the leap because while, now mind you, the content goes to the consumer and the money comes back to them, it was a hard decision because they're making $5 billion a year in subscription revenues and licensing. I mean, they get $1 billion just to show up at the channel. And then they get the cut of all the subscriptions. So, but what they were seeing as they launched out this HBO Go like independently in other countries, they did it in Sweden, they did it in Denmark, they start seeing good adoption and they start seeing the data. And so what happens is when you cut this out, you can begin to have your own help center. And you, as you know, when you use Netflix and you use Amazon, you ain't calling nobody, it works. Like when's the last time you like opened Netflix was like, this shit doesn't work. This is Netflix fault. No, you like call your cable company like my broadband's slow, fix this. And so like they're starting to realize like this isn't the problem. And they get the viewer data so they can begin to optimize their business. And this is the key thing. Like networks want to be able to optimize based on data. They know data is huge today. So you're seeing more and more networks get into the game. Just this year, HBO Now was earlier this year, yep, CBS Live Access, and then CBS owns Showtime, so inevitably we knew Showtime was going to come with their Showtime Anytime. All these services, this one's $14.99 I want to say, but on average OTT services are still around $9. And what we're going to see over the next 24 months is a lot more people coming into play. We're going to see Stars, AMC coming in with an offering, Comedy Central, HGTV. HGTV has a great following. And what's happening here is something that's very important. Not only are they getting the data, but they're building the relationship that they've lost with consumers. So when you think about Netflix, people talk about, I want to watch Netflix, I'm going to see what's up. When you think about NBC, you don't go to watch NBC, you go to watch, The Office. You don't go to watch ABC, you go to watch Modern Family. The brands out there today that exist that still have that core following are some of these brands that are launching first. So your HBOs, your HGTV, like people watch HGTV and don't know what's on. They just know that the content that HGTV is going to deliver them is going to be what they want at that time. People do the same thing with HBO. The major networks have lost that relationship with the consumer, and these apps are going to be able to bring it back to them. So we're going to see more of this proliferation, freeing up content online. And why is clicking so slow? And what that's going to allow them to do is not only better understand their business, they're going to be able to do targeted ads. So while other startups come online and try and do this online video stuff, they don't necessarily have the relationships with advertisers over the past few decades to say we're going to actually be able to monetize our subscribers. These networks do. They can come in with 1 million subscribers or less, and these advertising agencies are going to sign up with them for year contracts. For instance, Go90 has a year contract with, I want to say WPP or something like that, like a major media firm, to buy all the ads in that space and to run ads in that space. So they're going to be able to monetize it quickly through ads, which people will be used to because a lot of it's going to be network content. and through subscription services. But one cool thing that's really going on now, I really want to point out today, in terms of business optimization, is not just optimizing marketing for acquiring users or optimizing the user experience. It's also optimizing the content created. There's lots of money being wasted in content creation, and kind of like a plug for us, that's where we came in, because we were like, people are spending about $300–400 million a year in pilot TV content that never sees the light of day. They're not testing it properly, they can find distribution for it, so that's why we go in and test content for different studios and networks. But at the same time, you have companies like Netflix who have paved the way for creating content based on data. So here's a couple examples. Everybody knows House of Cards, Orange is the New Black's real popular, Narcos is the newest, and I'll use Narcos as an example. So this is like the actual algorithm for how Netflix looks at improving their system, whether it be user experience or creating content. And there's always the initial hypothesis that is formed by user data. So in the case of Narcos, the way we looked at it was, there was a point in time, I want to say late last year, early this year, where they released a set of drug documentaries and dramas. So they had Cocaine Cowboys Reloaded, Gangland's been on there, and then they had another one, whatever, the guy who is the actual Rick Ross or whatever. He has his own documentary on Netflix. So when they saw a correlated viewership between people coming in and watching Cocaine Cowboys, completing Cocaine Cowboys Reloaded, or vice versa, coming in on the second one and going back to watch that one, and you see a correlation between other viewership and behavior, such as looking at other drug dramas, completing and binging things like Breaking Bad, and seeing that most of this content is out of season, like it's been watched, it's not going to be recreated, they can see opportunity in the market. You can then take those tools and understand the components of those shows to people who are experts in creating stories. So they don't create the story with data. They bring in people who are, they bring in your Aaron Sorkins of the world, people who are masters at crafting TV shows or movies, and they're able to actually give them the tools they need to cast properly, to create the story compellingly, and to create the artwork properly. Netflix does a lot of artwork analysis. This is something that Hollywood has not done in years in an effective way. Every single time you hover over a piece of artwork on Netflix, that data is collected. Every single poster that comes to the system is analyzed. They look at how light it is, how dark it is, how many people are in it, where the title is placed, what color is it, how does it feel, warm, cold. And all that factors into you clicking on it to watching it, which is very important in converting people into actually consuming content. One cool thing here to point out that I think a lot of people miss, a couple things. You'll go online and you'll read reviews about stuff. They'll be like, oh, Marco Polo, Netflix thought they were cool, but then they did Marco Polo, that's not getting good reviews. It doesn't matter. Like, one person in Hollywood saying I don't like it is irrelevant to Netflix because they've already done the math. They know the opportunity cost of what they've created, and they know the amount of viewership they're going to get from it. So while I don't watch Marco Polo, there are 3 to 4 million viewers on the system who do watch it, and it keeps them with their subscription. So they've done the math, and it doesn't matter how great you think the content is, it matters how great the target audience thinks the content is. And that's the difference between the Netflix mentality and what Hollywood's been doing for years. So they have shows on there that are literally trash, that they've made because people like to watch trash TV. Like, I mean, think about it. CBS is still the biggest network out there. I don't know how many people in here you watch shows on CBS regularly, but I'm imagining it's not a whole bunch of you. And it's like, that's just what some people like to watch, so we're going to create it, and it's going to help retain that subscription. That's the key thing. Another key thing is, as network pulls out and goes global, they've already ramped up about 23 million subscribers globally. It's going to probably double next year. They have access to story creators and cast members that no one else does. So when they go into markets, they're not just selling the same shit they're giving you. They're actually localizing their content, learning the local system, making relationships with local content creators, and understanding what people there like to watch. But at the same time, they're meeting the best actors in that country. They're meeting the best writers in the country, the best directors. And these people have never had the opportunity to be on the big stage like people in Hollywood. So what happens when you go create Narcos, you don't get a white guy to get him to act like he's Escobar. You actually go to a Latin country and get the best Latin actor you can find and integrate him into the show and give him a chance he never had in his lifetime. And he's in it for cheaper than what you would ever think he would actually do it for, right? Like, you don't have to pay this guy Tom Cruise numbers and to get the output that you need. So that's another thing that's going to happen. Things will go global.
Can you speak to the collaboration with Telemundo on that, and the fact that, maybe 60% of dialogue is in Spanish, but it's still really popular? Is that
Yeah, that I think that's also very important. So like like doing something like that is a pure analysis of who they think the consumer is going to be, because they know that they have a certain amount of people who are Spanish speaking or have watched a lot of different documentaries or independents that are subtitled. So I think that definitely comes into value. I'm not completely familiar with the Telemundo part, but I would glad to give you a second to give you a little blurb on it.
I just know that they collaborated with Telemundo to do Narcos.
Okay.
So I imagine that it's because of, to penetrate the Latin American markets.
That's true. They have expanded to Latin American markets. So I also imagine that, again, it wouldn't just be the U.S. viewers, right, who would be watching the content. It would be the people in the international markets as well. So I think that makes sense as well, as they've made a recent push out to South America.
And I imagine that they're adding Narcos with Spanish subtitles and for the English dialogue.
Right, and vice versa.
And any other parts of the
Yeah, localization is huge, not just in television, but social media as well. So like, I think those are some components that have been left out of the mix for a lot of people as they look at television and they look at global opportunities. Because as you go back to the apps that I showed you earlier, that's going to allow people to be global brands. And so they have to start thinking about stuff like that in terms of localizing content and looking at how they can leverage resources in other parts of the world. And they have driven other people to do it. So Amazon has like this pile of amateur content that you go up and down on, and they have like some really high value pieces that they've already created, but they lead you to believe that you're voting on them and you're the chooser of what's going to come on Amazon. What it really is really clever marketing. It gets you to be an evangelist, it gets you engaged, and it gives them a little idea of how much time you should really spend on marketing or whatever it might be. But these big ticket pieces of content, Amazon Studios runs like a very traditional studio. They're in LA, they got LA people, they do what they do. But it's becoming more popular to get people engaged, even so much so that NBC did it. So NBC did Playground a few months ago, and Playground was a bunch of very high quality web series where you're able to go vote, and whichever ones you voted for are the ones that actually got syndicated and released over time. So that's becoming the big thing. And so as other networks see this, again, they really want in on the game. And right now, a lot of these guys, they license out to these guys at a flat fee, and these guys continue to grow their viewer base and get the data. The people over here are wanting to get that data, and so that's why you're going to continue to see the proliferation of streaming video. At this point, the tide has already turned, people are already consuming, and they know that's the way things are going to go. So let's just give them a couple large outlet things. So today, and over the next 5 years, people like me who's not cable are going to rejoice. I'm going to be able to watch it. I already watch anything I want, but in 5 years, you're going to be able to get to anything. Today, over 70% of the most watched channels can be accessed online, either as supported or through OTT service. And we're going to continue to see the adoption of streaming services grow and multiple streaming services within the home. The one thing that's really holding people to cable today is sports. Sports is already on Sling TV. So ESPN, MLB, and there's one other company, but mainly ESPN and MLB, they have the most robust streaming structures out there. So your HBO Now, that runs on MLB. I believe Showtime Anytime runs on MLB's system. They licensed that system from Major League Baseball because they were the first ones to create streaming video online, so they've been building infrastructure for over a decade. And so ESPN already has Watch ESPN. That's how I watch my ESPN. I just borrow my dad's code and watch ESPN online. And they're able to actually, they have a consumer base that's willing to pay for that. So we believe over the next 5 years, ESPN will also go direct as all the other networks make that shift. They're not going to want to lose their revenue. They're going to be the ones getting excluded from the packages because their channel costs so much for traditional television. So they're going to be able to go out and charge $15 or $20 a month to people who are those ESPN addicts who need to watch Sports Center all day and access every sports show.
Does that mean does Disney spin them off or?
No, they remain with Disney for sure. I think the main challenge they have is that they don't own all their content, so they're going to have to be in really heavy negotiations with whether it be NCAA or wherever NBA, wherever it might be. They're going to have to really handle those negotiations carefully to allow them to make that shift. So,
how are you going to watch when you've got different networks that carry, NBC or you've got Fox carrying, certain NFL games. Mm-hmm. So if you're a heavy live sports user, but they're on a variety of
You're
networks.
just gonna have to own all those networks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's kind of like I know people who have Netflix,
Yeah.
they have Amazon, and they have during what depending on the season, they buy NBA Pass or they buy NFL Pass. And because I'll get to this in the next slide, because a lot of us who are in this realm of cord cutting are transients. We live outside of the markets where we're fans. We're able to watch the games we want without a blackout. You know, I'm a Lions fan. I'm a Michigan Wolverine. You know, I can watch all that stuff. You know what I mean? Because it's out of market anyways. So that's the key thing. So like we see that happening, and the only thing that cable can do about it is make these bundles more affordable the way you want it, and try to shift the digital studios onto traditional. So these people, these MCNs, they've really topped out their businesses on YouTube, and now they're ready to grow, and they're willing to start investing more in long form content. And so yeah, so like we see them actually doing deals with cable companies to get more viewership. And at the same time, cable will still be scheming on you. They'll be trying to throttle your bandwidth because you're using more streaming video, charging more for bandwidth. And they'll bring in 4K. They'll be like, oh my god, we have 4K. Online doesn't have that. The only problem is the only reason 4K TVs are selling is because that's all in the store. That's all they have in the store. So it's not like people are adopting 4K and like I need 4K content. People do not care yet. So that's not going to be really a selling point. And the key thing I want to leave you here with this today is looking back again, who's being most influenced by this? What's going to happen with entertainment over the next 30 years? Right now, we've defined entertainment as television for quite some time, or movies in the theater. But what is entertainment will shift. And how bad that shifts for Hollywood is really up to them. Today, you look at millennials, and they spend a good portion of their day wasting time on Snapchat and chatting with people and all this stuff, right? Like Snapchat's really a time filler. Like if I'm just walking and like my mind isn't thinking anything, like a kid will just be like, oh, Snapchat time. You know what I mean? Like, and if it's nighttime, it might be Tinder time. If it's, you know, like, it's just like all these different times, there's an app for that. Like any time there is, I can fill it with an app. And that's just how they think. And when they're looking to get entertained, I'm still on my device because I just got done Snapchatting, so let's just YouTube some stuff. I found it on Facebook, which I did on my phone, so I'm going to watch it on my phone. And you have your Netflix viewers, and they watch some of this stuff in the home when they're home, but a lot of it's going on in the go. And when they're not doing this stuff, they're traveling, or getting their third degree, or moving to a different city because they move every year throughout their 20s. And what happens during this period of time is you have less and less time to watch television. So you actually have a lot of people who are under 25 who just don't watch television. And if they do, it's Netflix.
So I'm glad you got to that because I do have kids in that age range, and the way that they consume entertainment is different, and I'm changing as well. And those applications that are more interactive, there seems to be less of an interface for that unless you have people with their device or their iPad while they're watching their TV. So you have people on multiple devices at the same time.
Yeah.
Because they're multitasking.
Yeah,
I'm multitasking.
60% of the U.S. Watches multi-screen TV.
Right. So is there an avenue or a way to kind of expand the network experience that you're describing to also include like a channel to take care of all your app stuff as well? So it's like you have a corner of your screen that you're also taking care of these other avenues of your life that you're pursuing, and have that interactive exchange that you're going to be doing on a device one way or the other.
Yeah, I think you're seeing a lot of that. I mean, a lot of these networks are doing content through Snapchat. A lot of devices are implementing dual screen usability.
Well, like for example, the most frustrating thing for me is PS3.
Yeah.
Like my kids have to buy a new device or the games you have to you're still using a disc because and you can't port it from machine to machine.
Right.
Which is insane to me. Why can't I just have the game and have them send me upgrades and upgrade like I do everything else when I get an iOS update or what have you?
I think that's a shift you're going to see as well.
Okay.
I mean, like cloud gaming is a huge thing. That's a different discussion, but there's definitely like the next.
But to me, it's all on the same screen, right?
Yes,
it's still coming
it's
through
all
the
same
same
thing.
way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, most like I said, 20% of the country has these connected devices. Another 60% of the country has these consoles at home where they actually consume their content.
It's still profitable to sell somebody a $65 disc every year. The
It is,
right?
but selling the disc is possible, but there's only so many hit games that are going to be able to sell that disc. So it's like having the online opportunity to convert people rapidly and continue to convert them on other services on the product. So that's kind of like one piece of it. You're gonna start to see some more of that in streaming video as well. You'll convert on a service, but if you want no ads, you'll pay this. If you want this, you'll pay that. You'll see that on an OTT service. The same way you saw a bundle of cable, you'll start seeing these tiers where you can continue to enhance your experience. What you got?
So it's very interesting, all of your market data, and how did you get some of that market data, like the algorithm for Netflix? And you seem to know like in details about like how people are viewing multiple screens at a time. Like, where did you get that market data from? Not just from Google.
Yeah, a variety of places. I mean, I'd be glad to share this with some of you guys. I'll have a report coming out on this probably in December. But yeah, we get it from Deloitte, Nielsen's, different Wall Street analysts.
Do you pay for that?
No, we don't. We know a lot of people at those places. We exchange information and research. I know people that work at companies that get it, so I just get it from them. I mean, we're startup. We don't spend money on research. As far as Netflix goes, I'll talk to you afterwards on that.
Okay. So I just got a news feed from CNBC that says Netflix to hike price by $1 a month to standard $9.99.
Yeah.
What do you? How does that fit in the kind of the model that you've just laid out?
So Netflix is making room for they have a $7.99 tier they're gonna have.
Yeah.
I believe, but $9.99 is fine. Like the shift for them, $1 shift in price is the difference between having $100 million or not. And to the end user, it means nothing. Anything under $10 on a person's monthly recurring bills is completely ignored. It doesn't. I've had Netflix for almost a decade. I don't think about it. I've been unemployed and had Netflix. I didn't think about it. It didn't even come to the top of my mind. I was like, that's how I get entertained, and it's $9.99. So they're not going to break that common $9.99 barrier, because that's the point where people start making decisions. But they are going to have a $14.99, and they might go a little bit higher when they start delivering 4K. So that'll actually have a positive effect on their stock, simply because they know they're going to bring in more revenue and not lose any subscribers.
And your piloting fits into this whole thing where?
We test content. So whether it's for Netflix or whether it's for Warner Brothers, wherever it might be, when you create a piece of content, you need to understand how the audience is going to respond to that. And so we offer an experience where people are able to go in and watch a show, give direct feedback while watching the show. We monitor your activity, so we understand why you clicked on that show. We understand why you might have reacted that way in the scene based on what's in the scene. And we deliver that data back to our clients on the dashboard and real-time reports.
So
Focus
you're using
groups?
Pardon?
Focus groups.
Yeah, basically an online focus group that uses big data analysis. Yeah.
Just by like movement and everything of what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, you probably aren't moving that much if you're watching, but you can like and dislike scenes. You can respond to questions. We have the ability to do eye tracking. Like if we want to incentivize you to opt in eye tracking, hey, we'll pay you $10 to watch this with eye tracking. We're going to turn on your webcam and we'll eye track you. Yeah.
So obviously it's becoming a multi-screen world, but how do you see the future of the TV screen? Will it be there in 15 years, or?
I believe the big screen will always be in play to a certain degree. I think it'll reduce greatly, simply because people are coming up watching on tablets, and it'll just become commonplace. It's an easier way to watch it. The reason the big screen will come in play is because you don't feel like holding on to something and you want to sit on a couch. But for the most part, as people continue to, change the way they model their homes, not center the living room around the big screen, things of that nature, because it's not necessarily a family sit-down moment. I think we're going to see more and more mobile device viewership, especially on phone. Phone screens are getting larger and larger and higher definition, and everybody has access to one. So I think you're going to see less television sales over the next 10 years.
And you test your content on TV screens or on
everything? You can Chromecast on our app. You can use a phone. You can use Apple TV, desktop, whatever you want.
Do you limit yourself to narrative TV, or do you do gaming and,
we do everything.
documentary as well?
Yeah, like reality television, all kinds of stuff. I mean, we not only test response on how you felt about the content, we test things like, did Home Depot influence you? Like, if there's Home Depot product placement in this show, did you have a higher propensity to go make a Home Depot purchase after watching this piece of content? Which is very important for lots of MCNs who are mainly monetizing content through brand partnerships. So, any other questions?
What about other, like Sony Crackle or some of the other
Yeah.
studios like that? What
Yeah.
do you think of?
Crackle is in a unique position because at first it was cool because like Sony put all their like legacy library online and it was free. I was like, this seems cool. And then they, for some reason, couldn't get any advertisers. They had no one on their team working to actually lock in valid advertisements to the point where I was like, I'm cool to watch ads, but if I have to watch the same ad over and over for like a month, I can't do this. You know what I mean? I can steal this and watch this in a row. So like that was one of their downfalls. So they're not monetizing properly, so they're not funneling funds back into the company to create better content. You're thinking about like Sony's a huge company, but Crackle's Crackle.
Yeah.
Like Sony's crazy siloed, and so they don't have any support from these other entities within Sony. You know what I mean? Like they do get an app placement on Sony PlayStation because they had a quick meeting with the Sony PlayStation team and they're like, okay, yeah, we'll put that on there. But they're not above Netflix. You know, they're not the pride and joy of anything in home entertainment at Sony. They think it's just a side project. So unfortunately, I don't think Crackle's gonna continue to do anything too crazy. I know they have some more originals. The best original they did was what's Jerry Seinfeld?
Riding
The-
cars.
Yeah, riding cars, coffee cars.
Coffee and cars.
Yeah, so like that was the biggest thing they did, and that thing mainly took off on YouTube. So
I think that's where a lot of the content's coming from is YouTube, and then they're branching it off into either shows or.
right, and so that's where MCNs come in.
Yeah.
So that's why Crackle's in a bad position now because there's MCNs. Crackle was kind of an MCN a little bit back in the day because they had great online content with long form content. But now you have so many people out there doing that and zero awareness amongst millennials with the brand Crackle that I don't think they can really thrive coming forward, you know, unless they get some support from the Sony Pictures side. So we're actually going to Sony in a couple of weeks to talk about that.
So what you described is very much what a lot of internet or web-based companies do in terms of like gathering data and creating sort of customized product offerings. You mentioned something about content licensing is getting really expensive now. So is the trend everybody going toward creating original content because they've kind of done the economics and said forget about licensing content for other people, let's just create our own original and then go direct to consumer on the distribution?
Yeah,
is that
yeah, no, that's definitely part of the mentality. For Netflix, you know, they were spending, and they still spend, probably a couple $1 billion a year in content licensing. I mean, it's no joke. They spend crazy amounts of money on that stuff. And so for them to create their own content, it becomes very valuable because not only do they get to not worry about that licensing fee, they get to actually go out and license it to other people. So if it's really great content, they can make money off of it as opposed to losing a lot of money. You know, not losing money, but spending. Original content-wise, you're going to see every major network go into original content over the next few years. AMC did heavy investment in it about 8 years ago, and it's paid off in dividends. You know, they got Walking Dead, they got Mad Men, they had The Killing, which they sold off to Netflix, and they have, you know, some other Western show, like Breaking Bad. Like AMC created a culture and a methodology behind creating original content to help build their brand to the point where people recognize AMC. Like, it was the American Movie Channel. Like, I don't even watch movies on there. Like, you know, syndicated movies was no longer a thing, right? Because you could watch movies on Netflix or Amazon or wherever you want. So that was no longer a way to, you know, provide for their business. Similar thing with HBO. HBO knew that their business of providing all this great access to movies would become more commoditized over time. So they made a heavy investment in original content 20 years ago that has paid off the dividends where they have this strong brand where people are willing to pay for that service. So same thing for Netflix. Netflix is way quicker than anybody else has ever done it, getting to the point where I love Netflix shows. So like, if they do another 2 years of solid shows that appeal to a wide audience, they're going to be that service that people have to have because they know that the shows that they make are going to be great. Anybody else?
Do you foresee a decrease in price sensitivity when you think about the adding more and more channels via their HBO Now apps and things like that? I mean, the reason I ask is I used to be a cord cutter, and then I moved out here from New York 4 years ago, and I actually got cable again because all of a sudden, when I called the cable company, they say, you know, it's going to cost you, you know, $100 for broadband and a bunch of great channels. And I said, well, I don't need the channels. I can just do everything online. And they said, oh, great. It's going to be another $25 a month for your broadband. So they create that bundle where all of a sudden, if I were to just do broadband for $75 a month, and then add Netflix and Hulu Plus and all those, all of a sudden I'm spending a lot more. So do you think that price sensitivity is going to go away?
So I think there will be a slight. That's why I don't see like exponential growth in cutting the cord, simply because I do pay $80 a month between my entertainment and my broadband. But what happens there is it depends on what your propensity is, what's your response is to user experiences and how you consume content. So for me, I enjoy the quick consumer. Cable gives me anxiety. Like, it's just too much stuff. I don't know what channel to go to. The control's slow. The playback's slow. Like, the experience is not what I've been accustomed to. So for people who have always grown up in that online experience, cable won't give them the experience that they're looking for. So there will be some of those people who will go into it because the pricing makes sense. But for me, I actually have a cable box that's been sitting in my front door for like 6 months because they sent it to me to force me to try and turn it on. And I'm like, I don't want it because it's just more shit in the way. Like, so I think you're gonna have some people who that price sensitivity will come into play. They'll be like, it's more valuable, it's cheaper for me to go to cable. But I think a larger set of people who are coming into purchase power over the next 10 years have the already set expectations to be able to watch anything they want anytime they want any device. And cable doesn't ever offer that. So that's kind of my place on that. But the pricing will come into play. Like when you get a la carte full out, you're going to spend more on over-the-top services than cable. But you're just going to have more freedom and easier access. When I want to cancel my Netflix, I don't call up and wait 3 hours and have a conversation and try and get sold on some shit. I hit cancel and I'm out. You know what I mean? And if I want HBO now, cancel, I'm out. It's just a different experience. So if they find a way to increase their customer satisfaction and build up on that side, actually there's a real fight to be had. But I don't see that happening. So I really believe that you're going to still end up with that 30-40% of the U.S. on cable, but the mind share will be over the top.
Well, what about for those markets where like Google's in there already providing free broadband?
Google's been kind of hard stop on some of that. They should have had a lot more expansion of Google Fiber by now, but due to the entrenchment of current cable companies and the way that they've already built laws where they can only come to certain markets, they can't be competitive with each other. It's been hard for them to expand that service, but that factor alone could change the whole game, right? Because if you can get Google Fiber and pay them $300 and have internet forever without paying, that changes the game.
Everybody's gonna move to Kansas City.
Right. So, but yeah, I think I'm out of time.
Okay, guys. So it's 10:30. Let's give James a round of applause. This is a small gift from NewCo, and this is 2 authentic posters from this year's edition. So
cool.
If you like it, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. So this is the end of this session. He's gonna catch a plane. He's gonna leave at 11 o'clock. So try not to hold him up too much. But thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed it.
That was awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm glad I came.
I know.
Peter's got the homework.
Oh, cool.
I'm gonna try.
Oh, yeah, look.
Maybe I'll see you around.
Hello, Jim.
Do you like the market? Like,
Do I like it?
I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm like interested. There's so much room in the space.
I know. I also just it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's so different too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna have the same.
Really?
No.
Cool, man. Nice to meet you.
No.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, TV corporations, so you think
Yeah, not a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, I know you watch the players.
It's like that.
Yeah, I actually drove.
You drove as well. I did too.
Yeah.
Waiting you for work all day.
Well, so actually I'm driving right now for a little sweater with some organics, and then I'm gonna drop my car
yes.
in Berkeley and then take part
I didn't know it was.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
Always,
And so one of the things that we do is
It's gonna continue.
so that's when we take adverb.
Oh, yeah, we do that.
I feel good. I feel like
Yeah, do you have a card?
it's about time, you know, with the rest of the area.
Yeah, I'll do it.
And, you know, I feel like the areas that are gonna gentrify and open are areas that normally weren't.
You get two stuff?
This one.
Thank you.
I feel like cool places like this.
And then is there, would it be possible to use this?
So I think it's good for the city.
Oh, yeah.
The part
You know,
Yeah,
I don't
I'll
think,
show you.
you know, San Francisco is
Yeah, cool.
I don't think that,
Nice to meet you.
the things that you see that happen there.
Thank you, man. Yeah, thanks for coming out.
So
Cool, man.
overall, I think it'll be cool. People are gonna mow it around because, you know, yeah, rent is going up.
Let's do it. We have
But I think that, you know, city, culture of the city maybe persists. I believe so.
And we had held the provide.
So I mean, I just think there's certain areas that have like change. I feel like the technology that's coming in, it's like, yeah, around here, around this area, Jack London, those areas can change, but I think the rest of it.
Well, yeah, I'll talk to my team. Sure, man, really sweet. I don't have any cards.
So, you know, hopefully it's not necessarily constrained when it's.
This is coming out.
Thank you. So I think this will see more results. It seems like there are a lot of.
Oh, yeah, so, Amazon Netflix called me up.
But yeah, it's a changing time, man. It's so.
I'm thinking about going to a startup or whatever. So I met with him, he just like gave me a
Yeah.
There's like a public website that's kind of public that has a lot of these things.
It's changing really.
Yeah, so it's just really interesting. I think it's put up.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's
how to build the technology.
It's like you're violating like, you know, like.
No, because I mean, the algorithms that actually collect the data, you know, it has the process, but the algorithms that actually process the data aren't there. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you can write the algorithm to do that,
Yeah.
what? You know, like,
So, and it's just, I'm working with
the example
startups
of like
now,
the
and I need somebody to work
maintain
out this difference.
Oh, it's no now like there are, but it like I would say like area like
so one is
I think that now one you see in places like East New York are changing more than people want them to be changing, and I think that like they have an interesting thing.
I have a few things that I can send to you.
But I think that's
no,
it's just saying Norman that pilot that one.
and I don't think that the rate of growth is going to be the same for open as
Norman.
Pilot that one.
But at least there's like examples that open can look to. They have exactly like this, but that's okay.
We don't pilot that kind of too.
We can take those lessons and apply them.
Yeah, I have a couple things. I can send you and then I don't know.
Basically,
Yeah.
if I could find the TAM for like a few markets, that would be a huge help for me. I'm sure that's what matters for you.
So yeah, I'll let you know. I have a couple ideas.
I'll email you.
Cool,
Thank
man.
you very much.
Yeah,
Enjoy your time at home.
Thanks.
You ever down at like Palo Alto area?